Lesson 96, estimating angle measures and the distributive property with algebraic terms. So, if we can remember that a right angle looks like this, and it is equal to 90 degrees. Then we have what's called a straight angle, and that's 180 degrees. And then a full circle has 360 degrees. So if we have ourselves a clock right here, okay, so if you will draw a clock, oops. Okay, so if you notice, there's a 90-degree angle if you went from 12 to the middle over to 3. So you can see that between 12 and 1 would be 30 degrees, 1 and 2 would be another 30, and 2 and 3 would be 30, because we have 30, 60, 90. So if you did 90 degrees divided by 3, you could see that each 5 minutes is 30 degrees. So in between the 12 and 1, there are 30 degrees. So how many degrees are there in a full minute? So if I were to go all the way around the clock, that would be 360 degrees, but that's not a minute, that's an hour. 1 minute would be 1/5 of the distance between 12 and 1. Jacob?
What if you were using a minute and it went to the 12?
So between 12 and 1, there's 30 degrees. And we want 1/5 of that because we want 1 minute. And between 12 and 1 is 5 minutes, so we divide by 5, and that is 6 degrees. So each minute on a clock is 6 degrees. If I were to draw an angle from the 12 to the middle, and then the other side would point at the 1 minute, that's 6 degrees. So if I said, if a hand is pointing at the 12 and one at the 5, how many degrees is that? I could just do 25 times 6, or I could do 30 times 5. So each minute is 6 degrees, and you're going to use that quite a bit on your homework. This distributive property with algebraic terms. Distributive, if I wanted to say, I want to distribute something, basically you're handing something out. You're passing something, like if I'm passing out flyers or papers. So distributive means to hand out or pass out. Not as in blackout, but pass something out. As in flyers or papers. So when we are doing distributive property, we have, here's an example, 5 and then x plus 7. If we think of the 5 as a teacher term, so the teacher is going to hand out papers, and each of these two terms, we'll call them student terms. Every student needs a copy of the paper. So you're going to take the teacher term and hand it to each student. So we're going to pass it out to this student and that student. And what we're doing is multiplying. So we would have 5x plus, and 5 times 7 is 35. We don't want to leave anybody out. Whoops, we don't need parentheses there. Let me get rid of it. Okay. So here's another example. -4 inside 3 plus d. So we need to do -4 times 3, -12, and then a -4 times d is a -4d. So instead of writing plus negative, we just write minus 4d. And here's another example. In parentheses, 3 plus x plus 2y, and outside is a -3. Now, just because the teacher's standing on the other side of the classroom doesn't mean every student doesn't get the paper. So you want to make sure that you distribute and multiply by each one of the student terms. So -3 times 3 is -9. -3 times x is a -3x, so we just write a -3x. And -3 times a 2y is a -6y. So that's the distributive property. End of the lesson today.